Hokage married Kushina and became Naruto's father. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 11. Night, Ye Feng, what are you talking about? Joshinai said anxiously. Uzumaki Mido and the 3 generations of Hokage both frowned. The big snake pill cursed in his heart and lay down. Originally, after Ye Feng accepted the title of Zonin, even if he didn't go undercover in Yunin village, even if it was just a B-level mission, the big snake pill would be able to make some accidents. Unexpectedly, Ye Feng directly refused the granting of the title of Naka Shinobi. Shinobu can only accept D-level missions and C-level missions. If you accept the lowest D-level task, if the big snake pill wants to come hard, I am afraid that his identity will be exposed on the same day. Even if it is a C-level task, if the big snake pill does not reveal his identity, I am afraid that he will have to plan for at least 3 months. The big snake pill looked at Ye Feng deeply. Was this his great wisdom and foolishness? Had he expected it earlier, or was it just a coincidence? Uzumaki Mido hated iron and said, "Ye kid, what are you talking nonsense? Do you endure it like you've been living your whole life?" Ye Feng said directly, "Old lady, I think it's good to be able to endure. What's wrong with Xiao patience? Are you willing to be an inferior endurant forever? Why is Shinobu inferior? I think that the lower shinobi is the top pillar of Konoha, and these Shimo shinobi, which account for the vast majority, are the most powerful force of Konoha. It is their weight that has led to Konoha's today. Without the obscure sacrifice of the shinobi in one ninja battle and the second ninja war, Konoha has the current prosperous age. The first and second generations are great, but the vast number of subordinates under their leadership are also great. As a shinobi, I feel proud and don't have the idea of being promoted." Ape Flying Sun Chopper was originally very angry, but when he heard Ye Feng's words, his face completely changed. Ye Feng's words shocked the Ape Flying Sun very much. Ape Fei re-introspected in his heart. In the past few years, is it because he is in the position of Hokage, he has distanced himself from the vast lower patience, and ignored the vast lower patience. Old Mrs. Uzumaki Mido was also lost in thought. Joshinai was watching from the side, and he was also a little dumbfounded. What does Ye Feng mean by this? It's good to be tolerant? Listening to him say this, it seems to be quite honorable to be a subordinate. Ye Feng doesn't care if it's great or not, whether it's glorious or not. This 1000-hand pillar character card fusion speed plus 10 times is really fragrant. After 2 consecutive selections, the fusion speed is already 20 times. An hour now is equivalent to 20 hours yesterday. Suddenly, Ape Fei re-thought about whether he had been fooled by Ye Feng. Promotion to middle patients has nothing to do with whether you can afford to look at the vast number of lower patients. This guy doesn't want to bear the responsibility of forbearance. Ape Fei Richo looked deeply at Ye Feng and said, "Yes, Ye Feng, I think you have a point, and it is very good to be able to endure, so you really don't plan to be promoted to middle patients?" Ye Feng shook his head and said, "Thank you for the kindness of the 3 generations of Hokage-sama. Ye Feng wants to be an ordinary shinobi." The corner of Ape Fei Ri's mouth twitched. "You have awakened the blood succession limit. You still want to be ordinary. You still want to be ordinary. You tease me to play, right?" Uzumaki Mido whispered to Sarutobi Hinata, "Sarutobi, when I go back, I will persuade him again. He is still young and insensible." Ape Fei Ri was tired, nodded, and said, "Hey, okay, then let's do it first." For the first time in his life, he was rejected like this, and Ape Fei Ri was not in the mood, turned around and left. Hokage is also very busy, and he doesn't have time to accompany Xiao Xiao to fool around here. Recently, there has been a lot of movement on the side of Yunin village, and Thunder Shadow and 8-tailed human pillar force have come out to make trouble. According to the news obtained by the big snake pill lurking, Yunin village has captured the second-tailed beast, the 2-tailed brigade, a few years ago. This time, he took away Joshinai in order to find a person for Erwei Yoli. Joshinai is naturally the best choice. This time, Lei Ying and Yaoi Renjuli personally stepped across the border to rescue the undercover agent. Although the big snake pill paid the price of serious injuries and saved Chimu Shuamao and Bufeng Shuemen, he still captured an undercover agent, but Ape Flying Sun knew that Yunin village would not stop like this. Yunin village must still have a backhand. Konoha also had to prevent something like the kidnapping of Kushina from happening again. How martial law should be imposed in the village, how it should be prevented, these things must be discussed. Not only Yunin village, but Yenin village has recently begun to recruit troops according to spies, and they are ready to move. Precious piece, less than 10 years old, is war going to start again? Thinking of this, Ape Flying Sun Chopper couldn't help but sigh. The Ape Flying Sun cut away, and the big snake pill naturally took a deep look at Ye Feng, and also turned and left. Uzumaki Mido sighed, "You kid, did you pack your things?" Ye Feng nodded. "In fact, there is nothing to pack, just a few sets of clothes." In this way, Hokage followed Uzumaki Mito home. This is the small courtyard in memory, with green inside, and birds singing and flowers. You can vaguely see someone walking around inside. Being able to occupy such a large place in the center of the village shows the status of the Uzumaki clan in Konoha. Uzumaki Mito smiled and said, "Hokage, welcome back. In the past, we Vortex ignored you." Ye Feng waved his hand and said, "It's okay, old lady, I used to like quiet, but now it seems that this place is also very good. Just like it, Ye Feng, your house is over there, Joshinai, you take him over to put things and clean up." "Yes, Grandma Mito." Joshinai's face was a little hot, and he lived under the same roof as Ye Feng Jun, so nervous. Ye Feng followed Joshinai to his house, and he looked good. "Come in and sit?" Joshinai blushed and said, "No need, my room is next to it." After that, Joshinai ran away very shyly. Ye Feng was stunned for a moment. Was Joshinai hinting at something? Root headquarters. In a dark and damp office. Tuanzong looked at all the information of Ye Feng, and his face was surprised. Is it really a war orphan picked up on the way to pick up Uzumaki Joshinai? Such a coincidence, it turned out to be the orphan of the Thousand Hands clan. It was also such a coincidence, when facing a crisis of life and death, he awakened the blood succession limit. All coincidence? The information of the root members should be correct. But that's too much of a coincidence. Tuanzong still couldn't believe it, or was it the final struggle between the Thousand Hands clan and the Uzumaki clan? Ye Feng rejected 3 generations? Yes, Danzo-sama. He directly rejected the title of Nakaninja. The kneeling mask shinobu said. He also said that it is very good to be shinobi, don't look down on shinobu. Shinobu is the pillar of Konoha, and shinobu will always be the most powerful force in Konoha. What to say is to practice the line of lower patience and condense the power of lower patience. Tuanzong suddenly laughed, nonsense. What is the patience? Elite upper ninja, and even shadow-level powerhouses, is the key to determining whether a ninja village is strong or not. He doesn't want to see me? Bring him. In any case, this last orphan of the Thousand Hands clan is an unstable factor. And his active cells, very useful to himself, must be controlled in his own hands. If you refuse to agree, then you will be strangled. Mask Shinobu immediately said, Elder Tuanzo, this matter will be given to the next, please rest assured. Tuanzong pondered and said, be quick and ruthless, you alone or not safe, bring all 10 people from the roots. Yes, Danzo-sama. Also, don't do it in the whirlpool courtyard, wait for him to come out. Episode 12, 10 people in the root, the strongest elite in the root organization. Yugen organized 3 elite shinobi, Oil Girl to take the root, Oil Girl Ryoma, Yamanaka Kaze led by 10 assassination troops. Legend has it that the 10 of them joined forces and could destroy a small village overnight. If the root organization is the dark of Konoha, then the root 10 people are the strongest executors of the dark. Under Tuanzang's order, the 10 members of the root division had already begun to operate, and each took his place. Around the whirlpool courtyard, there is eyeliner all over the root tissue. At the gate of the small courtyard, a wooden child was poking ants with branches, and when he looked closely, the branch he was holding in his hand actually grew small shoots at the top. And in the courtyard, Ye Feng slept on the bed, looking at his own attribute panel. Name, Ye Feng. Strength, Ordinary Shainin. Position, Shinobu. Character card, SSS level Senju Pillar, Fusion degree 5.79%. Blood succession boundary, God level Muduin, character card comes with it. Ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God Art LV3, Dirt Reincarnation LV3, Thunder Thousand Birds LV1. The character card between the Thousand Hand Pillars is too strong, just 5% fusion, it is already the elite upper ninja level. It's normal for Ki to think about it overnight, but the Thousand Hand Pillar is a ninja god, a strong man of the same level as Uchiha. When Uchiha was at his strongest, one person beat the 5 shadows, which is equivalent to 20% of the strength being greater than a shadow-level powerhouse. Then the 5% strength between the Thousand Hand Pillars is comparable to an ordinary upper ninja, and that is not excessive. Moreover, Ye Feng also inherited all the ninjutsu between the Thousand Hands Pillar. The combat experience is also completely replicated. The system evaluates Night Maple according to his current amount of chakra and skills, as well as skills, to evaluate Night Maple as an ordinary upper shinobi. In fact, Ye Feng felt that even if he was an elite shinobi, he was not his opponent. Originally, within a year, from 5% fusion to 100% fusion, now it is 20 times faster, that is, within 18 days? This speed is okay, it's not bad. Just then, the doorway banged. Night Maple. It's Joshinai. The door opened, and Joshinai changed her clothes, a blue dress, red hair, and a special white complexion. Are you okay? It's still early, or let's go see Watergate. He was injured that night. Well, how is the injury? Am I going to lose money? Jioshinai was stunned for a moment, and then giggled. It wasn't you who hit, no, it was after you hit him. I heard that Lei Ying was coming, and he wanted to rescue Yunin undercover, and at the same time he wanted to capture them at the Watergate. There is such a thing? Yes, fortunately, Lord Orochimaru arrived in time and rescued them from the Watergate. I heard that Lord Orochimaru was also injured, but I didn't see anything serious this morning. Ye Feng listened to Jioshinai's words, only to know that the big snake pill was injured last night. No wonder it was so weak. In this way, the strength of the big snake pill is still there. But when the big snake pill recovered from his injuries, he was almost fused. Even if it is a weak, he can fuse more than 30%, and it is easy to deal with the big snake pill. Ye Feng, let's go see Senior Watergate and Shuamao. After all, they are also here to save me. Ding, please make a choice. Option 1, gladly go to the hospital to visit Watergate and harvest Watergate's friendship. Reward, C-level ninjutsu Ryu Dusenban. Option 2, refuse directly and drive away Jioshinai. Rewards, Jioshinai good feeling 10, B-level psychic technique earth escape tooth chasing technique. Option 3, go again another day, Ye Feng, today I want to stay at home as a salted fish. Rewards, 10 times the fusion speed of character cards between the 1000 hand pillars. B-level physical skills Epitori Renka. It seems that the system wants me to continue to be a salted fish. Ye Feng glanced at Jioshinai and lay down directly. I'm a little sleepy today, let's go another day. Watergate won't be discharged from the hospital so soon. Jioshinai suddenly crossed his waist angrily and said, Ye Feng, why are you so lazy? Oops, I'm sleepy. Jioshinai stomped his foot in anger and walked out. Uzumaki Mito heard Jioshinai say that Yokaide was sleeping again, and suddenly shook her head. She really had never seen such a lazy person. Then, Uzumaki Mito thought about it and said, Jioshinai, do you see if Ye Feng will be unwell after the awakening blood succession limit? Jioshinai was originally very angry, and when he heard Uzumaki Mito say this, he was a little worried about Ye Feng in his heart, and immediately asked, Grandma Mito, what should I do then? Uzumaki Mito muttered and said, well, I called Shizune to take a look, and it just so happens that Shizune has recently returned. Tsunade is not in Konoha now. Shizune is the most personal disciple of her granddaughter Tsunade, and Uzumaki Mito is now the most trusted to her. In the room, Yikid is lying in bed, and he can upgrade his skills when he sleeps. The life of salted fish is so boring and boring. Suddenly, the door banged. Who? Opening the door, I immediately saw the old lady and Jioshinai, and a little loli came. This is Ye Feng, I see that you seem to be uncomfortable. I specially asked someone to take a look for you. This is Tsunade Heim's disciple Shizune. Mute? Tsunade's disciple? This little loli? It's so cute. Ye Feng was slightly impressed. Shizune nodded and looked at Ye Feng curiously. She was about to leave Konoha village, and every few months, she would return to Konoha, mainly to gather the latest news and to get some money for her master along the way. This time back, I just learned that Yunin undercover kidnapped Jioshinai, and Thunder Shadow and Yao secretly sneaked into the border of the Fire Country. Naturally, he also knew about Ye Feng. When Shizune learned that Ye Feng might be injured or unwell, he came without hesitation. The first thing he said when he saw Ye Feng was, Ye Feng-kun, take off your clothes and let me see. Episode 13. Ye Feng didn't expect that just being a salted fish would cause so many misunderstandings. But seeing that Uzumaki Mito cared so much about him, and specially invited Shizune to treat him, Ye Feng's heart suddenly warmed. This old lady really regarded herself as her grandchild. Let me see. Shizune came to Ye Feng's front and touched Ye Feng's hands towards Ye Feng. Ye Feng involuntarily took a few steps back. Ye Feng-kun, don't move if you are injured. Let me see your body. Shizune grabbed Ye Feng, and Ye Feng directly closed his eyes. Well, since Shizune-chan wants to see my body, then I'll leave it to you. Poof. Shizune glared at Ye Feng with a strange face, and this little guy said as if I had done something to him. Jioshinai also covered her mouth and smiled. Humph, tell you to say. Shizune's soft flesh around Yikide's waist twisted gently. Even if it was a ninja, it hurt to be screwed here. This was done when Muzune was molested by patients before. However, Shizune unscrewed and explained himself. So hard. Ahem, such a tough body. Muzune was slightly gaffed for a second, and quickly came back to his senses to check Ye Feng's body. Very healthy body, no injuries at all, what a huge chakra. As a medical ninja, Shizune was very clear about the structure of his body, and when he examined Yokaide, he was very surprised. At a young age, this chakra amount is comparable to endure. After a while, the inspection is complete. Shizune said to Uzumaki Mito-sama, his body is very healthy, he doesn't look like he has an injury at all, maybe I didn't find out. How about this, if you have the opportunity, let the teacher take a look. Ye Kid listened next to him, his eyelids jumped, no, he was silenced to see his body, and then he had to be looked at by Tsunade. Uzumaki Mito said happily, is Tsunadeheim coming back? She hadn't seen Tsunadeheim in years. First, it was to protect Tsunadeheim, and secondly, Tsunade himself did not want to return to the sad place of Konoha. I don't know, or can Ye Feng go to the teacher? Uzumaki Mito immediately shook his head and said, not now, the situation has not been very good recently, Joshinai has just been robbed once, and Ye Feng as the last bloodline of the Thousand Hands clan, cannot be careless. Shizune also understood, nodded, and said, okay, Mito-sama, then I'll go first, and I'll bring the news back to the teacher. Well, be careful on the road. At the door of the Whirlpool Courtyard, the child played with ants for a day, and the Whirlpool Courtyard went in and out, but I didn't see the night maple come out. But soon, the child saw Joshinai go out. The child grabbed the branch, and more shoots grew on it, turning into a few words, Gyo out. Juzanai went out. Then, the branches were thrown directly into the alley. After another while, Joshinai returned with Shizune. The child threw another branch into the alley, Gyo, plus silent back. Joshinai and Shizune are back. After another while, Shizune came out on his own. The child threw another branch. Soon, the headquarters of the root organization, Tuanzo, received news from the child. Ye Feng hasn't gone out? Isn't Joshinai going to take him to visit Bufeng Shuimen and Chimu Shuamao? Silence is coming. Could it be that Ye Feng was injured? You injured Ye Feng last night? In the office, in addition to Tuanzong, there was another person, Orochimaru. Orochimaru shrugged, and then licked his lips. No, at that time, my teacher and his old man came, what's wrong? Shizune entered the Whirlpool Courtyard, Ye Feng may be injured. Maybe he was injured while rescuing Joshinai. The big snake pill said without refusing, maybe, my laboratory, where do you arrange for me? Right here. Danzo promised to form a new laboratory for Orochimaru, who had returned to Konoha, apparently wanting more from Orochimaru. Orochimaru didn't care either, nodded and said, okay, I heard that there was another surviving experimenter in that experiment 5 years ago, called Yamato, right? Tuanzong nodded, took out 2 branches, and said, look at the words on it, this is Muduan. The big snake pill's eyes flashed with a beast light, and he nodded and said, very good, I'll use him for experiments first. When you catch Ye Feng, please send Ye Feng. Tuanzong looked at Orochimaru and said, whether it's Yamato or Ye Feng, send it to your side, you can't mess around. Previous experiments were forbidden because you were too messy. The big snake pill's eyes flashed with the light of a beast, and he smiled and said, I just want a little of their blood, I can't die. After that, the big snake pill turned and left. A bunch of stupid people, just talking about the conditions, were deceived. And just like that, another 2 days passed. The children whose roots are arranged in the Whirlpool Courtyard have been changed. The subject, known as Yamato, has been transferred. And the hidden people around are waiting for the appearance of Ye Feng. But it's been 2 days, and the shadow of the night maple has not been seen. Shouldn't this night maple not go out for a month? It's really time-consuming. Even Tuanzong, where the headquarters of the root organization sits, couldn't bear it. Wait another day, after 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, if the night maple does not appear, just withdraw. Tuanzong also didn't understand why Ye Feng was so homely, but he knew very well that if he continued to put the root 10 people here, the other work of the root organization would not have to be carried out. Ye Feng, this kid is too cunning. In the room, Ye Feng looked at the fusion degree, which had reached 20%. Open the properties panel. Name, Ye Feng. Strength, Elite Shinobi. Position, Shinobu. Character card, SSS level Senju Pillar, fusion degree 20.09%. Blood succession boundary, God level Muduan, character card comes with it. Ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God Art LV3, Dirt Reincarnation LV3, Thunder Thousand Birds LV3, Amaranka LV3. I have to say that 30 times the speed is really fast. And when salting fish, ninjutsu can also be upgraded. Now the 4 ninjutsu have also risen to LV3, which can be regarded as basic proficiency. With a fusion degree of 20%, I'm afraid that the big snake pill can't hurt itself. There is a certain ability to protect himself. In this case, Ye Feng feels that his short salted fish career is temporarily over. Episode 14. In this way, if the salted fish continues, Joshinai will be angry. Watergate lay in the hospital for several days and did not go to see it, or is it not a classmate? However, just as Ye Feng was about to call Jiu to visit Watergate, he was told that Watergate had been discharged. Ye Feng suddenly felt that there was no longer a friendship boat between himself and Watergate. It's all to blame on salted fish. At this time, the Watergate actually took the initiative to knock on the door. Ye Feng was stunned when he looked at the bloody Watergate coming up to talk to him. Ye Kid Kuan, that. What is that? Not only Ye Feng, but Jiu was also a little confused. Watergate scratched his head and said, last time, I thought about it repeatedly in the hospital, and I had a lot of insights. I don't know if Ye Feng Jun can fight me again. Of course, if I get injured again, it has nothing to do with Ye Feng Jun. I took the initiative to ask for it. Watergate glanced at Jiu gritted his teeth, and said, what I say now, Jiu can testify. It's not enough to be abused once. How many times do you want to be abused? Ye Feng suddenly felt that the Watergate was M. In the end, Ye Feng was embarrassed and agreed to Watergate's masochistic request. Jiu said with a strange face, the boy is really strange, he fights and kills all day. Ye Feng suddenly looked at Jiu you used to use your favorite to move your fists, whatever. Of course, it is not suitable for hands in the Whirlpool courtyard. Therefore, Ye Feng chose to be at the number 5 training ground in Konoha village. Why training ground number 5? Because it was recently. Ye Feng and Jiu and the moment the Watergate walked out of the Whirlpool courtyard, the 10 people in the route immediately knew. Ye Feng capture operation, ready to begin. Don't reveal your identity as much as possible. Find the opportunity, thunder strike, don't pay attention to Vortex Jiu and Wave Feng Shui Men, when necessary, it doesn't matter if you hurt them. Go. In all directions, countless black shadows sprang up, all waiting for the best opportunity to capture. Ye Feng was already alert for the first time. Even the Watergate looked around and felt that the atmosphere was a little wrong. As long as Jiu this silly girl, is still in the dark. Ye Feng groaned and pulled Jiu into the alley. Night Maple. Don't go in. Watergate saw that Ye Feng pulled Jiu into the corner, gritted his teeth, and followed. He found that something was wrong, but he couldn't ignore Ye Feng and Jiu However, at this time a man with a black mask fell in the air. He made a hoarse voice, and said, Wave Feng Shui Men, your opponent is me. Watergate suddenly frowned and said, who are you? We? Naturally, it is an undercover agent in Yunin Village. Shui Men said coldly, you are not an undercover agent of Yunin Village. If you are an undercover agent of Yunin Village, how can you take the initiative to admit it? Before the words fell, the figure of the Watergate flashed, and instantly appeared in front of the roadblocker, and the spiral pill held in his hand shone brightly. Ye Feng pulled Jiu and looked up at the figures that suddenly appeared around him. Everyone wore hideous masks, judging from the breath, they were all the strength of the middle ninja or above, and even a few upper ninja. Wouldn't you? In broad daylight, there will also be kidnappings in the village? Ye Kid really couldn't imagine that someone would be so bottomless. Didn't he really put the 3 generations of Hokage and Uzumaki Mito in his eyes? You don't have to guess, you are roots. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Actually guessed the identity? But it doesn't matter anymore. As long as no evidence can be found, then everything is not a problem. Yamanaka Kaze, who was the leader, squinted his eyes and said, up. With an order, everyone rushed forward. And the mountain stroke directly used the secret art of the mountain family, the technique of heart-changing hearts. Use the soul to concentrate the spirit on one point and release it on the enemy, and after success, use strong spiritual power to control the enemy's actions, so that the enemy cannot control his body. At the same time, in the other 2 directions, 2 people opened their heads and flew out countless poisonous insects from their bodies. Parasite. In addition, in front of Ye Feng and Jiu the eyes of a masked man suddenly emitted a blood-red light, and the 3-hooked jade was turning. Jiu exclaimed, blood will I? There are people from the Uchiha clan in the root organization? Isn't that reasonable? Ye Feng was also full of doubts. Blood chakra I illusion Narakumi no Jutsu. The leaves fluttered in the air with the wind, and Jiu began to get confused. Suddenly, Jiu heard Ye Feng call her name, so she turned around happily and replied, Ye Feng. But he saw Ye Feng covered in shurikens and kunai, bleeding non-stop and falling to the edge of the tree. The frightened Jiu fainted after letting out a scream. At the same time, there were others who pounced on Ye Feng and Jiu at the same time. There are 10 people in the route, and as soon as they strike, it is a thunderous blow, and they are about to take down Ye Feng. Episode 15. In the Whirlpool courtyard, Uzumaki Mito suddenly stood up. Not good. Night Maple went out, looking for death. Someone really deliberately wants to destroy the Thousand Hands clan. The roaring flames of the golden-tailed beast chakra appeared on the surface of the body of the Whirlpool Mito, and the eyes turned into fox eyes, and the sealing runes of the Whirlpool clan appeared on the body. Bang! Uzumaki Mito jumped lightly and jumped out directly. At the same time, in the Hokage office, Sarutobi also suddenly stood up. At this time, the Big Snake Pill walked in. Teacher. Wait a minute, Big Snake Pill, if there is something, we will talk about it later. Teacher, this matter is very important. Get out. Ape Fei glanced at the Big Snake Pill coldly, and the figure standing in place disappeared in a flash. Tuanzong? I should have noticed it a long time ago. The ape flew toward Ye Feng's side at a rapid speed, smiling bitterly. He didn't expect Tuanzong to be so frustrated. Unexpectedly made a move against Ye Feng in the village. Do you think you can do this without evidence? You're wrong. Sarutobi had already sensed the chakra of the 9 tails, and the old lady was completely furious. Tuanzo, what exactly do you want to do? Could it be that even the last bloodline of the Thousand Hands clan had to strike like this? If you go on like this, Tuanzong, you really have no way to turn back. In the alley, 10 people from the root besieged Ye Feng. Poisonous insects, essence mysticism, chakra eyes, and countless numb-coated kunai and shurikens flew in. Just when all the attacks were directed at Ye Feng, countless doppelgangers suddenly appeared in Ye Feng's body. Mudun, Shadow Doppelganger Art. The heart-turning technique was supposed to hit Ye Feng, but it was immune to the splitting effect when the Shadow Doppelganger technique was used. At the same time, the poisonous insects, Ku Wu, and Shuriken all smashed on Ye Feng's doppelganger that suddenly appeared. The doppelganger helped Ye Feng block the gun. Bang! 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 Multiple doppelgangers instantly turned back into wood. Yamanaka Feng with a mask was stunned for a moment, his forehead sweated. This night maple is a little difficult. Actually used a shadow avatar technique, broke their siege? At this time, the 2 oil women who raised insects continued to release insects. They all wore special glasses, and at a glance, they knew that they were oil women. I saw densely packed parasites crawling out of them and flying towards Night Feng. Even the other people in the 10 people at the root did not dare to approach, for fear of being affected by the insect tide. I felt like I was about to have a dense phobia, but fortunately Jioshinai fainted. Ye Feng complained and directly sealed. Mudun, birth of the tree realm. Night Maple's chakra passed from his feet to the ground. Countless thick trees instantly grew on the ground, and these trees seemed to be uprooted, bursting the surrounding buildings in an instant. Bang! 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 With a loud bang, all the ninjas in those rooms jumped out. Horrified to find out, what's going on? How did it suddenly turn into a small forest with green trees? Little yellow Maoshui Men was fighting with a masked shinobu, and suddenly under the feet of this masked shinobu, a thick branch appeared, directly stabbing the masked shinobu into the sky. Ugh! Shinobu covered his ass on the mask, like an angry bird flying through the air, and then slammed it heavily on the ground. The corner of Watergate's mouth twitched. Such a sudden charm made Shuomen's mind come up with Chimu Shuomao's trick, Millennium Kill. It's so ferocious. Seeing that the masks on the face were shattered, and the pants were also broken. It's miserable. Watergate saw the face under the mask and was stunned for a moment. Shigaraki-senpai. It turned out to be a Shigaraki Tanuki of the root organization? The Shigaraki Tanuki spewed out a large mouthful of blood, looked down, his face changed greatly, and immediately turned around and fled. The Watergate did not stop it, but looked inside the tree realm. He looked up at the dense woods. Night Feng, was it already so strong? Night Maples all used the tree realm to be born. What the root organization is doing? At this time, there was a loud bang behind the Watergate. The golden chakra flame emitted from the Whirlpool Mito, and it fell, and the concrete floor on which his feet stepped on cracked. Watergate? Old lady, Ye Feng is inside. Uzumaki Mito watched the birth of the tree realm, slightly lost his concentration, and the appearance of 1,000-hand pillars appeared in his mind. You keep watch outside, I'll go in and take a look. At this moment, a huge King Kong Rui rod also smashed down, followed by a thin figure, and then fell. 3 generations of Hokage-sama. The ape flying sun fell and nodded at the Watergate, but was angrily scolded by the Whirlpool Mito. Ape Fei, what are you doing, actually letting the gangsters do something wrong in the village? Sarutobi sighed and said, Old lady, put away the 9 tails first, let the students solve this matter, and give the students another chance, okay? As the 3rd generation of Hokage, the 3rd generation of Hokage did not call himself a student in front of Uzumaki Mito after taking office. Today, Ape Flying Sun Chopper really felt guilty for the cultivation of the 2 teachers. He, very angry. At the same time, the birth of the tree world appeared in the center of the village, attracting the attention of everyone in the village. The Uchiha family, who was still patrolling, was led by Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku saw it from a distance, and suddenly a loud noise erupted in the middle of the village, filling the air. "What's going on over there? Go!" Uchiha Fugaku gave an order and walked quickly over with his clansmen. Hyuga family territory, genius brothers Hinata Hayashi and Hinata both rolled their eyes, looking at the flowing chakra at the birthplace of the tree realm, very rich. What the hell is going on there? Go check it out. Not only the Uchiha clan and the Hinata clan, but also the eyes of other families, such as Inuga Butterfly, have all cast their eyes. Episode 16, So. In the tree world, there are thick roots everywhere, instantly squeezing the surrounding space. Click. Click. The surrounding houses collapsed one after another, the sound of explosions continued to sound, there was no complete brick and tile around, and smoke and dust were everywhere. For a moment, the audience was shocked. The eyes of the 10 people in the route were wide. A figure appeared in their minds, the original Hokage. The man who completely changed the terrain of the Valley of the End in one war. One of them, the mask of the Sharingan Shinobu, the three-hooked jade in his eyes turned, and he clearly saw a trace of chakra that appeared on Ye Feng's body, almost condensed into substance. Such a chakra quality, they can't even endure. The roots of the surrounding tree swayed, exuding terrifying coercion, and everyone trembled slightly. Ye Feng felt the chakra in his body churning, which was completely different from a few days ago. Ye Feng stood still, making everyone sweat coldly. Not only the people in the tree world, even the Hokage outside, but also the old lady Mito of the Whirlpool, Watergate and others, all felt a heavy oppression. Sarutobi said in surprise, "This is the chakra of Night Feng?" Uzumaki Mito was also shocked. In the past few days, Ye Feng has been doing nothing all day, and his favorite thing is sleeping, and the old lady was already a little disappointed in Ye Feng. But now, the old lady can understand. Ye Feng is a genius. Geniuses are always proud, just like old men, who don't have a positive shape all day. Thinking of this, Uzumaki Mito sighed and said, "It's really a species of the Senju clan." Then, the old lady looked at the Watergate again and said, "Joshinai is also inside?" Watergate nodded sharply and said, "Yes." Ye Feng pulled Joshinai in. The old lady's eyes suddenly lit up. Ye Feng and Joshinai were two young people inside. This is a good time to cultivate feelings. So, the old lady stopped the 3 generations of Hokage and said, "Ape Fei, wait a minute, since Night Maple used the tree realm birth, there should be no danger." Ape Fei looked at the old lady speechlessly. "Just now you were so excited, and now you don't let me in?" At this time, the head of Yamanaka Feng had a sense of foreboding in his heart. This young man's intelligence was wrong. It's not just ordinary Shainin strength. Up. The wind in the mountain roared violently, and the ground under his feet suddenly cracked, pounced on Ye Feng. At the same time, others moved. Shinobu on the mask of the Sharingan, bleeding from the corners of the eyes. Illusion, golden binding art. Illusion, golden binding art is an illusion that gives illusions to enemies through the Sharingan and restricts their movements, and enemies will be immersed in their own world and unable to move. However, such a level of illusion is not effective against Night Feng. It's actually invalid? It's not just Uchiha Kagami's chakra eye illusion. The mind control of the mountain stroke is also ineffective, and the parasites of the oil woman family can't get close at all. Countless tree roots, wooden vines, densely packed, wrapped and whipped towards the roots of the 10 people. Groove. These roots and wooden vines are constantly whipping, and they are constantly getting thicker and bigger, and the trees are green and vibrant. In such a vibrant environment, everyone felt great fear and cold sweat. Bang! 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 The 10 people at the root jumped back and forth between the vines of the roots, flashing and moving. Sometimes you have to cut down roots and vines that you can't avoid. Also use avatars and shadow avatars. However, countless terrifying roots and vines rose from the ground, and their space became more and more crowded, full of roots and vines. Even if it is a shadow avatar technique, it is impossible to use up one after another. After all, they are just ordinary ninjas, and there is no blood succession limit. Retreat. Yamanaka Feng saw that it was wrong, and quickly shouted to retreat. Ye Feng's strength far exceeded their expectations. They had already speculated on Night Feng's strength to the maximum, but as a result, Night Feng's strength was still far beyond their imagination. When the 10 people of the route heard that Yamanaka Wind said this, they all turned their heads and fled. However, the speed of the root vine is faster, like a flying arrow, suddenly shooting. Swish! 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 Ugh! Ugh! A few screams, in just a few seconds, the roots of 10 people, one by one, like rice dumplings tied up. Countless huge tree roots blocked the retreat of the mountain wind from all directions. The mountain wind was instantly wrapped in rice dumplings. Bang! Avatar technique. 20 meters away, the figure of the mountain wind reappeared, breathed a sigh of relief, turned around, and his pupils shrank suddenly. When did Ye Feng come to him? And his companions are already all tied. It's all around with night maples. It's all doppelgangers. Ye Feng won with 1 against 10? Ye Feng squinted at the masked mountain wind in front of him. You are the leader? Episode 17. Ye Feng gently pressed, countless roots and vines, instantly wrapped the mountain wind. This time, the mountain wind had nowhere to escape. Soon, the tree realm withered at a speed visible to the naked eye, leaving only the 10 rice dumplings in front of it. At this time, Jiao Xinai, who was lying in Ye Feng's arms, his long eyelashes trembled. Jiao Xinai suddenly woke up from a nightmare. Looking up, Ye Feng was right in front of him. Ye Feng, are you all right? Jiao Xinai touched, her eyes were red, and she hugged Ye Feng tightly. Just now in the Naruto technique, Jiao Xinai watched Ye Feng bled and fell to the ground. It was too terrifying. In Jiao Xinai's mind, halfway from Vortex Hidden Village to Konoha Village, he saw the dirty Ye Feng for the first time, entered the school together, graduated together, and then Ye Feng came to save himself. The scene was vividly remembered. At this moment, Jiao Xinai realized that he cared so much about Ye Feng. Ye Feng touched Jiao Xinai's soft red hair and said softly, "Little silly girl." Jiao Xinai nodded in Ye Feng's arms and said, "I'm so stupid that I actually fell for illusion, ahem." At this time an untimely voice came from behind Ye Feng. Jiao Xinai looked up and quickly pushed Ye Feng away. "It's the old lady Mito of Uzumaki, and 3 generations of Hokage are coming." As for the water gate behind them, it was subconsciously ignored by Jiao Xinai. Old lady Uzumaki Mito glared at the 3 generations of Hokage very dissatisfied. The young man finally romanticized, "What do you old man want to do?" The 3 generations of Hokage are also helpless, and if they don't make a sound, I'm afraid that all 10 people in the route will suffocate and be strangled. Just by looking at it, he recognized the Route 10. It's really a group collection. Are you crazy? At this time, Uchiha Fugaku also arrived with the Uchiha family. Sarutobi looked back at Uchiha Fugaku and said, "Fugaku, you guys are here just right, set up a cordon around to prevent idle people and others from entering here." Uchiha Fugaku glanced at Yokaide and showed a surprised look. It's really night maples. The terrifying tree realm just now was made by Ye Feng? After the Thousand Hands clan awakens the blood to follow the boundary, it is too strong. Uchiha Fugaku was just stunned for a moment, and quickly said, "Naruto-sama, then these people. As long as you don't let idle people enter, I'll take care of other things." "Yes, Naruto-sama." Uchiha Fugaku immediately arranged for his clansmen to raise a cordon nearby. Hinata, the people of the Yamanaka family, were all stopped outside and could not come in. Ape Flying Sun Chopper looked at Ye Feng and said, "Ye Feng, you let them go first. 3 generations of adults, do you know them?" Ape Fei sighed, and just as he was about to speak, there was a sound of footsteps behind him. Everyone looked back. Danzo, as well as 2 Hokage's top advisors, Mito Manita and Koharu, walked over quickly. "This is my people, Ye Feng, put them down." Tuanzong glanced at the 10 people of the route who were tied to death, and was surprised. Is Ye Feng already so strong? I really made a big mistake this time. But Tuanzo sorted out his mood well. Ye Feng didn't speak, and Jiao Xinai's eyes widened and he looked at Tuanzong. What exactly is Konoha's top brass going to do? Why attack Night Maple Kuan? Tuan hides you. While Sarutobi was organizing his language, a golden chakra flame suddenly appeared on Mito's body. A claw formed by a 9-tailed chakra directly grabbed Tuanzang's neck and lifted it up. "Shimura Danzo, it was your people who attacked Ye Feng? What exactly are your intentions?" Old Mrs. Uzumaki Mito's shoulders were shaking, and she was already extremely angry. The people of the Vortex tribe died in battle, which was an accident. The decline of the Thousand Hands is also an accident. Even the death of the rope tree was an accident. But now, Ye Feng was openly attacked in Konoha, and it could no longer be covered up by accident. The old lady was out of anger. "You know, this is already the last pure blood of the Thousand Hands clan. Could it be that the high level of Konoha really wants the Senju clan to be exterminated? Shimura Danzo, you are the elite guard of the 2nd generation, how can you do such a thing? What the hell do you want to do?" At this time, Tuanzong realized that he was making a big fuss this time. His eyes were wide, he grabbed his neck, and his feet were kicking in the air. I have been following the philosophy of the first and second generations, and everything I do is for Konoha, and I am absolutely selfless. Ye Feng's actions that night, there are too many doubts, I just want to invite him over. I didn't mean to do anything to him. It was an accident, an accident. Tuanzong grabbed his neck, almost unable to breathe. Caught by the nine-tailed chakra, he couldn't use any ninjutsu at all. Besides, Tuanzong has been pampered for so many years, and in the face of death, it has long been less ruthless than when he was young. Most importantly, he didn't expect that the old lady Mito, who hadn't made a move for almost 20 years, was still so strong. Is this the power of the Nine Tails? The old lady's sudden action also disrupted Mito Menyen and Koharu's plans to go to bed. If Ye Feng made a move, everything would be fine, and in turn, Ye Feng would be charged. It was said that Ye Feng's body was full of doubts. Originally he just wanted to ask Ye Feng to investigate, but now Ye Feng does not respect his elders and acts arbitrarily, so he should be caught. But the old lady is now making a move, what can they say? The method they used before, in front of the old lady, could not be used at all. The old lady's status in Konoha is the most respected. Seeing that Danzo was about to die, Mito Menyen and Koharu hurriedly said, "Old lady, can you put down the group first?" "Yes, Tuanzang is also for the village, I think there is some misunderstanding between them?" Episode 18, for the village? Or for your own selfish desires? Where does Ye Feng make you feel that it has harmed the interests of the village? Uzumaki Mito's questioning left Mito Menyen and Koharu speechless. "Old lady, this may be some misunderstanding." "Yes," Tuanzang also said, "I just wanted to ask Ye Feng to ask for questions, but I didn't expect Ye Feng to resist so fiercely." "Enough." Ape Fei Rechop picked up the King Kong Rui stick and smashed Tuanzang with a stick. Blood splattered, and a few teeth could be faintly seen flying out. Then, like a tattered burlap bag, it turned into a wonderful parabola in the air and smashed heavily on the ground, life and death unknown. "Tuanzang is completely wrong this time, so you two don't defend him." Konoha has never had any rules that allow people from the Root organization to openly arrest people on the street, and besides, no procedure has been undertaken. Sarutobi looked at Uzumaki Mito with a sad heart and said, "Old lady, this time is a serious dereliction of duty by the student. The students must give the old lady, give Ye Feng, and give everyone a clear look." Mito Menyen and Koharu suddenly felt a chill behind them when they saw the momentum that Sarutobi suddenly burst out. The old monkey was furious. The stick just now directly knocked out all the teeth of half of Tuanzang's face. Uzumaki Mito snorted coldly and put away the nine-tailed chakra. The stick that Ape Fei Ri slashed just now, which seemed to seriously injure Tuanzang, but actually saved Tuanzang's life. Ye Feng watched quietly on the side. The old lady's nine-tailed state was really too handsome. It's a female version of Naruto. If Joshinai learns the nine-tailed state, heck, it's amazing. Uzumaki Mito ignored the ape-flying sun, looked at Ye Feng lovingly and said, "Ye Feng, what do you think? It's naturally good that 3 generations of adults can find out clearly." Turning to sleep, Koharu looked at Ye Kid's appearance, and said very dissatisfied, "Then Ye Kid, you quickly let them go, they are all the elite of our Konoha." The elite of Konoha, attacking the inhabitants of Konoha? Xiaochun's face suddenly turned ugly. This young man was too disrespectful to himself. If it weren't for Uzumaki Mito here, I would have taken him away today. Mito Menyen's face suddenly changed, and he quickly walked in front of the masked ninja in the front, squatted down and put his hand on his neck. "Dead?" Mito's reaction made Koharu shocked and hurriedly walked up. "He's dead?" Mito Menyen nodded with a gloomy face, glanced at Ye Kid, and quickly walked to the second masked ninja. "Still dead." Ape Flying Sun Chopper was also silent. He also discovered that all 10 of the roots were dead. No life left. Ye Feng is too ruthless. Unexpectedly, all 10 people in the root were strangled. Just now, everyone's eyes were focused on Tuanzang and the old lady, and they actually ignored Ye Feng. Are they dead? Koharu and Mito Menyen's faces are very ugly. Among the 10 people of the root department, there are their elite shinobi of the Sleeping Clan and the Mito Clan, all of whom are the nephews of the Sleeping Koharu and Mito Menyen, with a great future, and one of the options for the future head of the family, and they died like this? Ye Feng said lightly, "Oh, I didn't notice, I'm sorry, ha. Ye Feng, you are simply lawless, you dare to kill people in Konoha? I'm just fighting back in self-defense, they all dare to attack and kidnap me in broad daylight, what else can I do?" Then, Ye Feng sighed again and said, "It's just an accident, it's just a misunderstanding." Koharu and Mito Menyen's face was very ugly, and the bruises were exposed. Just now, Koharu and Mito Menyen used misunderstandings and accidents as arguments, and now Ye Feng sent the misunderstandings and accidents back to them. Ye Feng, pay attention to your words. Turning to sleep, Xiaqun pointed at Ye Feng, out of anger. You are simply daring, killing so many elite Shangnan. Come. Arrest him. As soon as the words fell, suddenly a thick tree root emerged from the ground and directly smashed Xiaqun into the air. Turning to sleep, Koharu's whole person flew out upside down, spraying blood from his mouth, streaked a parabola in the air, and smashed on Tuanzong. Ugh! Tuanzong screamed, and before he woke up, he fainted again. Is it really a bloody mouthful, our senior advisor of Konoha, such a quality? Ye Feng didn't have any waves on his face, and he didn't take going to sleep Xiaqun seriously at all. Senior consultant? What is that thing? You. Mito Menyen's first reaction was anger, but the look in Shang Ye Feng's eyes just now was immediately provoked. The other party did not care about the identity of his senior advisor at all. If you want to shoot, you can shoot, there are no taboos. Simply presumptuous. Mito Menyen looked at Sarutobi Hinata with praise. Ape Flying Sun Chopper showed a wry smile. He really didn't expect that Ye Feng would strike when he said it, and the thunder blow did not give people time to react at all. Ye Feng, you did this too much. Uzumaki Mito snorted and said, I believe that he is self-preservation. After all, he has just awakened the blood succession limit, encountered an attack, used too much force, and killed the attacker with the wrong hand. Isn't it normal? This time, whether it was Danzo or Koharu and Mizuto Menyen, they made her very dissatisfied. She wondered if it was a very wrong choice for the second generation to hand over Konoha's inheritance to them. On the other hand, Ye Feng, she appreciated it very much. That's how it should be argued. As for the Route 10, that is to kill chickens and monkeys. Episode 19. At this time, a sound of footsteps came. Uchiha Fugaku took the Uchiha guard and walked over again, and their eyes widened when they saw Danzo and Koharu, who had fallen to the ground beyond recognition. This is Elder Tuanzo and Advisor Koharu? Who beats them like this? Uchiha Fugaku looked at Sarutobi with a stunned expression. Fire, Naruto-sama, did you call us over? Ape Flying Sun was speechless. Did Xiaqun stay in a high position for too long, and his brain burned out? Call the Uchiha guard to come and see the miserable situation of his humiliation? It's okay, Fugaku, you guys go out and continue to maintain law and order around. Yes, Naruto-sama. Fugaku looked complicated, beckoned the guards to turn and leave. Before leaving, Fugaku took a deep look at Ye Feng. The yellow hair on the head of the wave Feng Shui gate was fluttering in the wind, standing in place with a confused face. Ye Feng actually dared to make a move against the senior consultant? These are the two big men after the Hokage. And that mysterious Danzo elder was also beaten by Naruto-sama. God, he'd never seen anything so crazy. Jioshinai was also very nervous and held Ye Feng's arm. Ye Feng's arm suddenly tightened, and he felt that his arm was wrapped in softness. Little Jioshinai's development is very good. Ape fly. Mito Menyen looked at Sarutobi Rickhop again, and said unwillingly, anyway, Ye Feng is full of doubts. This time he also killed us Konoha so many elite shinobi, he must go back with us to be investigated. This is originally the procedure that has been decided by the Ministry of Administration and the Root Department, but it is not made public. Now it's a battle of face. If Yoriki didn't go back with them to be investigated, then they would be laughed at by Konoha. If you can't arrest people, the two high-ranking people will be beaten instead. What will others think of them? However, Ye Feng did not want to give this face. This advisor, let me be honest, now this group of them, in the heart of Konoha, without showing any documents, openly attacked me and Kushina. What do you mean by doubting you now, targeting our own people in Konoha village? Did you receive any benefits from Yunin's side? Did you really betray Konoha and become a spy for Yunin village? Did I sabotage your profit transmission with Yunin village, causing you to be angry and corrupt, and want to openly attack me in Konoha? As soon as Ye Feng's words came out, everyone's faces changed. Night Maple. Ye Feng, you talk nonsense. The nine-tailed chakra on Uzumaki Mito's body appeared again. The more I think about it, the more I feel wrong. Menyen, I respect you as senior advisors. And an old lady of mine has been retired for a long time, and I don't want to bother with Konoha's internal affairs. This should be your business. But if you do something to betray Konoha, I can only destroy my relatives with righteousness. Mito Menyen seemed to be facing the huge nine-tails, cold sweat, and quickly said, Old lady, you have thought too much, everything you do is completely for the village. Uzumaki Mito ignored Mito Menyen, looked at Sarutobi and said, Sarutobi, I really have to check it out this time. Old lady, I will definitely find out what happened, and there will be no favoritism. Uzumaki Mito nodded and said, okay, I still trust you. After speaking, Uzumaki Mito looked at Ye Feng and Jioshinai and said, Ye kid, Jioshinai, let's go. Sarutobi nodded and glanced at Mito Menyen, warning him not to speak again. Speaking again, the face of Konoha's management is all gone. Today was originally Tuanzong, they were wrong first. I also want to bite Ye Feng back. Yokai took Jiao Shernai and followed Uzumaki Mito away. Walking around the corner, Ye Feng suddenly turned around. By the way, 3 generations of adults, there is a person who is a member of Uchiha's clan, and he also opened the blood will I heard that the people of the Uchiha clan are only in the guard, how can they be in the roots of the elder of Tuanzang? When Apefei Richo heard this, his face suddenly changed greatly. Ye Feng's words were not for him, but for the Uchiha clan outside. This guy is afraid that the world will not be chaotic. The person who opens the Sharingan must be a genius of the Uchiha family, and will join the root. Moreover, why did Tuanzo absorb people from the Uchiha clan, what did he want to do? Apefei Chopper examined all the corpses on the ground, and there was really a corpse with chakra eyes, and his face suddenly became cold. And Mito Menyen next to him was expressionless, and he wanted to kill Ye Feng in his heart. This guy is so abominable, he caused such a big trouble for his side when he left. You wait, don't let me find your flaws. Just when Mito Menyen was thinking about how to take revenge, he suddenly heard Sarutobi speak. Menyen, you and Koharu have also worked hard in the past few years, and they have made a lot of contributions to Konoha, and they are also tired. I will give you a month off, take a good rest, and arrange the work at hand to the young people below. Also, Tuanzong, don't pretend to be dead, this matter has too much impact, the root is under investigation, and you can be ready to disband at any time. Episode 20. On the way home, Bluffing Shueman apologized and said, Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't expect it to be like this. Ye Feng smiled and said, Watergate, it won't be you who deliberately led me out, right? Bluffing Shueman's face changed, and he quickly waved his hand and said, There is no such thing at all. I think if you hadn't been called out, nothing like this would have happened. I don't blame you for this, it's something that will happen sooner or later. If you don't call me out, I'll come out too. Besides, it's a good thing to come out this time. The first is to let Ye Feng clearly understand his current strength and what stage he is probably in. When it really fights, it should not be weaker than the shadow level, right? The worst is also quasi-shadow. Moreover, you can see Jiao Shinai's small hands now, quietly being held by himself, and they are all used to nature. The system said that Jiao Shinai's favorability rating is now above 90. There are many things that can be done to Jiao Shinai. Uzumaki Mito, who was walking in front, was also full of joy. If she could match the two of Ye Feng and Jiao Shinai, it would be considered the end of her wish. Watergate, come to my house for lunch? No, old lady. Ye Feng, let's talk again next time when you have time. After Bluffing Shueman finished speaking, he directly used the teleportation technique to leave. He walked next to Ye Feng and Jiao Shinai, and he was really traumatized. Originally, Bluffing Shueman had a good impression of Jiao Shinai, but now Ye Feng is one step faster, and he is holding hands with Jiao Shinai, and Bluffing Shueman said that he was very hurt. Still want to eat? Don't want to eat anymore. Ding, choose to start. Option 1, abandon Jiao Shinai and invite Hofeng Shueman to eat Ichiraka Ramen. Reward, Ichiraka Ramen VIP recharge card *1. Option 2, let Bluffing Shueman calm down by itself. People must always learn to grow. Reward, B-level ninjutsu water done water array wall. Option 3, forcibly invite Bluffing Shueman to eat at home. The friendship boat will not turn too much. Reward, S-class sealing technique Een Seal. The Een Seal is the usual accumulation of chakra, and unlocking the Een Seal can release a large amount of chakra, so that forbidden arts and large-scale medical ninjutsu can be launched. This ninjutsu, created by Uzumaki Mito, Tsunade, and Haruno Sakura, can be said to be the precursor ninjutsu that created the art of regeneration and the art of the 100 heroes. Without this ninjutsu, the creation of the art of regeneration and the 100 heroes is unusable. For Ye Feng, the effect of this Een Seal is even greater. Originally, the chakra between the 1,000 hand pillars was super large, and with the Een Seal, maybe one person could top the chakra of 100 people. Hey, Watergate. Wait a minute, after Ye Feng finished speaking, he jumped and caught up with the Watergate. Huh? Before the Watergate could react, it was grabbed from behind by Ye Feng. Come on, don't be shy, come to my house for dinner. That's not okay. What's bad, Ichiraka Ramen can be eaten at any time, not worse this time. Ye Feng did not speak to the Watergate, and directly pulled the Watergate to the Whirlpool Courtyard. 1 hour later, in the Whirlpool Courtyard, Ye Kid, Watergate, Jiao Shinai, and Uzumaki Mito sat in the dining room, ready to eat. Ding, forcibly invite Bluffing Shueman to eat at home. Congratulations to the host for completing option 3, rewarding S-level sealing technique Een Sealing. In Ye Feng's mind, all the knowledge of the Een Seal immediately appeared, and using the Een Seal to store chakra, then a diamond-shaped mark would be formed on the forehead. Wait until you get back to your little house and study it carefully. If you learn the Ein Seal, and then learn to create the art of regeneration and 100 heroes, you will take another step towards the goal of an all-powerful ninja. Watergate, come and eat, you're welcome. Yes, Watergate, eat quickly. Uzumaki Mito felt that this child in Watergate was also a good boy, and he was polite, so he did not dare to eat first, so he quickly served dishes to Watergate. Watergate, eat. Thank you, old lady. What's polite? I'll come over more if I'm okay in the future. Jioshinai saw that Ye Feng did not pick up vegetables, and also sandwiched a piece of meat for Ye Feng. Eat. Bluffing Shueiman looked envious. It's nice to have a girlfriend. Speaking of which, Watergate is a ninjutsu genius, but emotionally he is a chick. The original sweetheart was on the opposite side to give Ye Feng vegetables, you know my gnome. Watergate looked at the heart. Why do you want to come here to eat? Is the brain broken? This meal has just begun, and Ye Feng has hurt the little heart of Bluffing Shueiman again. Bluffing Shueiman is painful, no, I also want to find a girlfriend. In the afternoon, Bluffing Shueiman had already left, and he had agreed to fight Ye Feng a week later. He also said very confidently that he was learning a powerful ninjutsu, and the day he practiced it, he would definitely surprise Ye Feng. Awesome ninjutsu? Isn't it the Flying Thunder God technique? Ye Feng felt that the Watergate was going to be pierced again. Flying Thunder God technique, he will also,